Magoni's a goal scorer. What about Dante? Dante's his own breed.
Give me 2 seconds, Eichel and Svetch, and I'll be coming at your neck. Richard Zednick, laugh past the breadstick, Artemi will bury. Send him on his merry way, lest it's don't carry. What's sadder than KK's broken spleen? Leafs fan with hopes and dreams. Rink Moose is back for season 3 with hot takes like you wouldn't believe.
I'll block shots. I rescind that. You've never blocked a shot for me.
Now let's turn it over to the host of the show. His character's high, but his skill level's low. Kid back checks like you don't even know. Championship flow, Jonathan Quick is a schmo. Yeah.
Oh, hello there.
Tis the season. Last year was like treason. Stanley Cup, more like a COVID Cup. The year of Cooper was more a big blooper, like Ferris Bueller in a brand new cruiser. Oh, hail, hail! Now my car is a star, moves like a sports car. He can sauce like a Boston crisscross like Art Ross. He's peanut butter smooth like Quinn Hughes, and a work of art like that upstart Carter Hart. That's good kokanee right there. So in comes Keith. Will the boys be Leaf? Can Jumbo Joe and Nonsense Mo avoid another repeat? It's time to start the show, so turn up the stereo. Put your feet up, relax, enjoy a Bud Light Jack. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 5 of the Rink Moose Hockey Podcast, a bi-weekly hockey podcast where two good pals get together and discuss all things NHL and their implications in the fantasy hockey universe. I am one of your hosts, as always, Nick Costu, along with my guest this week. Up north, they call him Wingman Wayne, Kyle Nice. How are you doing on this fine evening, Kyle?
Well, you know what? Today I feel like a lone cactus in a vast desert.
Okay.
You know why that is?
Why is that?
Because we're so used to having guests on the show. Doing it just the two of us seems a little lonely now. So
it does, doesn't it?
That's how I feel.
It definitely feels that way. There is so much to everyone's chagrin, no rotating third chair this week. We are back to the OG format. Who knows? Maybe you guys like that. Maybe you guys don't like the guests that on. Maybe the banter gets to be too much. Who knows? Maybe the banter gets too much. Maybe you guys are saying, I want to hear more Nick and Kyle. Who's the schmuck? So we back, I guess, by popular demand, maybe, is just the two of us. A little bit of the OG format here. So, I mean, you mentioned you had some thoughts on your mind just from the get-go, Kyle. So, what's on your mind?
Well, first of all, I was gifted a book just yesterday from my dad. It's called Everyday Hockey Heroes by Bob McKenzie. It's the second volume. Yeah. Second volume in Bob's books there. And I'm a good fifth of the way through it. Really interesting read, Nick. And it's not actually, but most of it's not written by Bob at all. He's got his little blurb in the beginning, but then he's gone and given the pen to all these different hockey people throughout the world and all kinds of different stories. One of them was Joey Hishin, if you kind of recall that name, old Colorado Avalanche guy. Basically best friends with Ryan O'Reilly when they were growing up and trying to get into the game together.
Wow. But
he had a terrible concussion way back in his junior years, and he fought so hard to get back to the NHL. Finally got back, scored a goal with Colorado. Short-lived, though. He played in the playoffs against that Colorado-Minnesota year. That was the McKinnon rookie year, if you remember.
Interesting.
And then he ended up playing in the KHL a little bit, bumped around Europe, and now he's a coach in Owen Sound. So cool little story there, and I'm looking forward to reading the rest.
So it's called Untold Hockey Stories?
Everyday Hockey Heroes.
Okay. Everyday Hockey Heroes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, and I like these books. I mean, I know Duffy, he's done a similar thing where he doesn't act like he's not creatively writing his own book. He's more just interviewing other people and getting their tales. Right. So call it what you want, whether they're writing it or not. The subject matter seems interesting. And
Yeah.
I was definitely going to pick up his latest one, that Beauties one.
Yeah.
But this Bob one sounds like something I should get on as well. So that's great.
See, I think Beauties is going to be more like the Spit and Chicklets type stories, like the gritty ones that you and I would really enjoy. But then this Everyday Hockey Heroes is kind of like for the masses. Like, Bob, he caters to the masses. So there's definitely a place for it too. And yeah, it's so far so good. I'll let you know if anything sticks out. I'll let the viewers know.
Right. And so if I may, just I guess organically, because we brought that up.
Yeah.
What did you make of the breaking news this week of the Bell cuts? The hashtag on Twitter was Bell Let's Cut.
Oh my God.
What did you think of that as a former Bell employee?
Well, you know what? It came as a huge surprise, because I was one of those guys, probably like so many, who had Bell, in their mind as this like feel good, do good company, like many of us probably felt. And we all love our TSN radio channels, right? And I'm sure those guys out west and those in Hamilton and those in Winnipeg like theirs too. And it was just such a gut-wrenching story, because they cut so many, and they cut them in such a hurry, in such a sudden fashion, that it seemed like it just rocked the whole industry. And if you were on Twitter at all the past couple of days, it was just a lot of, people coming together and people like really just bashing this Bell company. It was such a unanimous like scumbag move that everyone acknowledged. And then you got financial reports coming up like they shouldn't have done this. They're hiding behind this veil of, oh, it's COVID, we need to make these moves. They didn't need to make these moves. They use it as an opportunity to shuffle the lineup a little bit and to make themselves more profitable in the short term. But I'm telling you, like, it's a tight-knit community, these broadcasters and these sports people. This is going to come back to bite them. People are going to shy away from the Bell products from now on in the sports sphere, at least to some degree. Like for example, I'm on Game Center the other day. I've got the Sportsnet feed and the TSN feed. I went Sportsnet just because it was in my head. I love the TSN feed a little bit more, sure, but you know what? I went Sportsnet this time because it was just a scummy thing to do. But at the same time, we have to remember there's still a lot of good people still working there. So it's hard, man. It's a hard situation, and it just sucks for those guys. But I'm sure they'll land on their feet. We'll get them on our show. We'll give them a bit of a platform, right, Nick? We'll get them.
I would love to, as a loyal follower of TSN. I think it's 1050 in Vancouver. That's one station. I listen to them every day, and whether it be Sakaris and Price or Halford and Bruff or Donnie and Moj, right. Those are three different shows I listen to often, and these are talented, good people that just out of nowhere gone. Like one of the shows was on at 8 a.m. Vancouver time. It was Ray Ferraro's slot. They had him at 8 a.m. and then 9 a.m. they got the work. They just took off the station, like done. And apparently it was cutthroat. Within 20 minutes, they were like, "Grab your stuff, get out of the office."
Yeah. So I heard the clip, Nick, of what went down on that radio station. Yeah. So basically, they cut the show. They had this like robotic speech that they did in like Google Speech or whatever. They're like, "This show has been officially canceled," and then they played "Good Riddance" by Green Day. And it was like, whoa, man, that was huge. That was huge. I saw. It's just not a good look, man. It's just not a good look.
It really shows you just how like volatile that industry is. Like you could be a name brand guy who's been there for 20 years, and you're treated like everybody else. And you're just gone. And as someone who earlier in his life thought about that industry and aspired towards that industry, heck, I guess you could even say we're in that industry at an amateur level.
Sure.
But as someone who thought about that early in life, now I look at it and I'm just like, what a shitstorm, you know?
And did you hear about Dan O'Toole a few days before?
That was shocking.
He lashed out big time online.
Did he?
If you didn't see what he said.
I thought he was pretty modest. I thought he was pretty modest. Like he was just like, I thought he just kind of played the nice guy role. Like, I'm just looking for a job now. Like that's all I saw.
No, he went off on Twitter. on Bell. Like this guy,
What did he
you'd think
say?
he would just kind of keep to himself. I'm going to try to pull it up here
Okay.
if I can
Yeah,
find.
no. As you're doing that, all I'll say is like I just saw like one comment he made, and then I saw the Jay Onright obituary
right
on the night of the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl ended. It went to Jay, and it went to now it's just called SC with Jay, and he gave this great, brilliant speech in like 1 minute. And about telling stories of him and Dan like drinking White Claws and shooting the shit, and I was like, hey, like well said, but even you can tell even he was disturbed. You know, he was making light of the situation, but he was still very disturbed. So, yeah, it's pretty that when I heard that news that Dan O'Toole was gone, I was basically like, nobody's untouchable. You know.
Yeah. No, you know what's funny is he actually deleted that string of tweets.
Oh,
I cannot.
Maybe that's why I didn't see it.
It's totally deleted. But I remember I was when I saw it, it was basically like, you know, going after the whole Bell Let's Talk thing. He's like, "Oh, you want to talk? Okay, let's talk. Let's talk about how they they canned me without any warning in the middle of a you know all that stuff that people are saying." So. Okay, yeah, moving on from the whole Bell situation. Unfortunate, but we got to get into the meat of the show here. Couple opening thoughts I want to share with you. A little bit of news bites that caught my eye. Josh Hosang. Now, you're aware of this character and the reputation that he brings along with him?
Of course.
So he, right now, is playing for a team called Örebro of the Swedish Hockey League, the SHL, where he's recorded 1 point in 5 games. Fair enough. He's a young guy, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he's been kicked off the team for being, quote, too far behind in fitness. So this is just another stumbling block in a road for this guy. And it really brings up another guy we're going to get into a little later, Tony D'Angelo, but these guys with these so-called character issues and if they can be reclaimed. So it's kind of a good lead into that later in the show. Another thing I want to highlight here is some rookies performing well in the AHL. Oh, wow. And Pittsburgh's tied it with 18 seconds to go. Let's go.
Good thing I didn't start Varlamov.
I know. So a couple of rookies doing well in the AHL while the CHL is out. Seth Jarvis, 5 points in 4 games. Very impressive for him. Trevor Zegras, 5 points in 3 games. Drysdale is doing well at 2 points in 3 games. Peyton Krebs, 4 points in 2 games. He's looking really good down there.
Wow.
Newly drafted Dylan Holloway and Montreal prospect Cole Caulfield are tearing it up in the NCAA. Absolute dynamic duo. Holloway has an amazing 23 points in 12 games after going 0.5 points per game last year. Caulfield has 33 points, including 17 goals in just 20 games. Crazy numbers for these two, and what's more impressive, they're not playing on the same line 5-on-5. So they're both individually tearing up this league, and it's just great stuff to see. So
this is
really,
the WHL?
No, the NCAA.
Oh, you're right.
For Holloway and Caulfield there.
Yeah.
So that's looking like a great pick for Edmonton, which you highlighted as your 10th overall selection. I will remember when you did one of your mocks.
Holloway.
Yes.
I said he was my favorite player in the draft, so I'm glad. I'm glad it's coming to fruition. I'm just disappointed. This like everything you just mentioned is happening south of the border, and here north of the border, we're still waiting on things to come to fruition. Like I don't know which league's going to open first. We heard news today the OHL they're targeting a April return, which my gut reaction was just like it feels so far away.
Oh my god. It's what are you going to do with that? Are you going to have like a 20 game?
It's a 24 game schedule, which sounds like a joke to me.
Oh my god.
In hubs. I guess if you're doing a hub situation, you have no choice but to do a short schedule because you're not going to have a hub of 60 games, right?
Yeah.
So, we'll see what happens there. Things sound very preliminary at this point. I'm still casting my vote for Kingston to be one of the hubs. I think that would be brilliant with the hotels here down by the water. I think they could really make it work near the rink there. I think we have the right infrastructure, so that would be neat. But we'll have to stay tuned on that. And have you heard anything about the other two leagues?
I don't know. I know the Q is like.
I'd assume they're the most aggressive. Like they're the most aggressive.
No, I don't know if they're playing full time right now. I know they've played some games. Yeah. But I haven't heard a peep from the WHL. I don't know. It's all just a mess. And like we don't really care what happens in these CHL teams. The biggest problem is what's it going to do for the development of these kids and the scouting that's going to go on this year. And guys like Shane Wright, this is who I feel the most for, you know? Like, these are amazing development years. This is his draft -1. This is a huge deal that he's missing this time. It's a huge shame. And there's going to be ripple effects from this for a long time. I think he should go to Europe. That's what I think he should do.
Yeah, he could have done that a while ago, but maybe the team's not letting him. I don't know, right? The team owns his rights.
Yeah.
So there might be more to that, but it's just bizarre because you look at the NHL and the North Division's been the only division without any positive cases. Like, everything's been going swimmingly, and yet the junior leagues in this country can't get their act together, whereas all these leagues down south are doing just fine. So I don't know what to think.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot into it, and on that, we may have our first COVID protocol in Canada with Jesse Pool Party over in Edmonton. It's not confirmed it's a COVID thing yet, but he is on the protocol. So we'll keep our finger on that pulse, because that would really, that could really screw up this division. Like it's done for the Metro, like it's done for, some of the whatever division Minnesota's in. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully not, but we'll keep our eye on it. But that's the opening thoughts.
And I guess, just inherently, because we're talking about COVID, basically the news that's happened is basically, we've had several teams lose a shit ton of games so far. Buffalo, Minnesota, New Jersey, Colorado. I know you've been feeling the brunt of that. Oh, it's been very tumultuous and just very odd, especially if you're running a fantasy team where these guys are now on, COVID protocol. You can't put them on an IR spot, and you're having to keep them. If it's a guy like Darlene who you can't drop, you're just losing games.
It's been a disaster, and and now my question here is this. Now, the guys in the group answered this, but I don't know if they're right or not. When are these games going to get made up? Are they going to get made up? Are they going to sprinkle it into the middle? Because now it's a lot. Like, New Jersey's missed a lot. Minnesota's missed a lot. I don't think, even considering the condensed schedule, it's already pretty tight as it is. I don't think you can just sandwich these in. Now we're talking about tacking them on to the end of the season. How far do you want to push the playoffs back? To be honest, I think this is going to be a scenario where we become more transfixed on points percentage. At some point, I don't think everyone's going to get 56 in. It doesn't seem possible to me. Because if this can happen once, it can happen again. It can happen to a Pittsburgh this time instead of a Buffalo,
No, and I think one thing you can't do is sabotage all the teams where things are going swimmingly. Like in the North Division, I would forecast they're going to play their 56 games. The league's going to want to keep getting revenue for Sportsnet and TSN and keep those games going. And if they have to go points percentage for the Central or the West, so be it. And that's how they'll do it. But I can't see them just shutting all games if one of the divisions is doing just fine. So hopefully this Puljujärvi thing doesn't lead into anything too big. And we can keep going here. My main concern is, these postponed games, if they end up being placed at the very end of the schedule, in fantasy, you'll have a matchup where your opponent might have way more players playing that week because they've gotten all these games that were supposed to happen way back in January or February. And that will fuck everything up. And then there will be outrage.
Yeah. Or conversely, you're always at risk of having postponed games, even in playoffs, even in, any scenario. So, I mean, I don't want to just like kind of sing my own sorrows here, but I've missed parts of Crosby, Hall, Makar, Grubauer, Reinhardt, Dahlin, and Fiala. It's like you can't win. Like there's just parts of these guys you just cannot win. So hopefully that doesn't determine the winner this year.
No.
Fingers crossed.
Because it's been such a good league to this point. And one, like this season, like I was just looking the other day at just moves. And of the 10 teams, we have 18 moves, 6 moves, 4 moves, 4 moves, 16, 19, 5, 12, 10, and 6. Like there's parity there as far as participation, which in the past we've seen people check out after 1 week, and at the end of the year they made 1 move.
Like Joe.
Yes, but now these people are in it, and it's good to watch. Like I dropped Tyler Toffoli the other day, and then the following day I looked to see who put in a claim. 4 claims were made. Like there was an all-out bidding war on the waiver wire. 4 different guys threw their hat into the ring to get this bum of a player.
I knew there would be waiver claims for this. I knew it. I absolutely knew it.
So that's a perfect example of just people are in it to win it. 4 waiver claims, and I love seeing that. I got a nice smile from that when I woke up in the morning. So it's been a great league, and I hope this COVID doesn't halt things. So moving on to the lead topic of the show. This was a special request made by Kyle about a week ago. And it kind of just came in the wake of all of these, media people posting their Team Canada rosters, because we're a year away from the China Olympics.
Yeah.
And people were making their prognostications and putting all their stuff together. And Kyle thought, well, we did this a few years ago. I think we did this a couple of years ago, and it didn't end up coming to fruition, of course. But he said we may as well do this again. So I took some time yesterday to do this. I assume you've put probably hours into this. And I want to hear, how do you want to do this?
Why don't we start with the goalies? How about that? That's a little unconventional. How about that?
Okay. So I will start with my 3 goalies. Of the 3 positions, this is probably the one I put the least thought into. Or I just didn't need to think too hard about it.
Right.
Needless to say, my starter, just out of a sheer loyalty factor, and subject to change, of course. We've seen all the time these goalies that start game 1, they lose their gig. Marty Brodeur, lost his gig in Vancouver. We've had guys like Luongo come in out of nowhere. And so just a loyalty perspective, I'd have to give it to Carey Price. He gets the nod and goal. He just would. And his backup would be the young Carter Hart. No real surprise there. I think those are 2 names that probably most people would have. And I think that would be good. The older guy mentors the young guy. And as my 3, I would have, and this is where I'm kind of split where I'd run here. I could go basically 50% of me says it should be Darcy Kemper. Right. Just out of a sheer skill standpoint, the numbers back him up. He's looked like a stud in Arizona. And the other 50% wants to give the nod to Marc-Andre Fleury.
Wow.
I think just his character there, his presence in the room. I want that presence. And he's done so much for our country. I mean, World Juniors, World Championships, Olympics. I feel like he deserves to be there for one last shot. So my 3rd would be kind of a coin flip between those. But gun to my head, I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here to give predictions. I would probably say they go Kemper.
Yeah. Wow. Now I'm impressed that you didn't say Binnington.
No,
because a lot of the experts out there had Binnington. A lot of almost unanimously had Binnington somewhere in there at 2 or 3, which I was kind of surprised at, to be honest. This guy doesn't have that kind of pedigree, does he? To be in this conversation so consistently?
I think it's a recency bias thing. I think if you did this
Yeah.
right after they won the cup, then I think he'd be a shoo-in. But I think when you look at the flop that was the COVID playoffs, and recently, I mean, this season he hasn't played spectacular. I own him and I've watched their games, and he's been far from the best player on their team. He's definitely not been one of the standouts for the Blues. So
Right.
I mean, it's a contract year for him. And that's what's nice. It's a year he can prove himself, and if he can prove himself as he should during a contract year, as you'd expect he would, then I think you might see him gain some traction. But until he does that, until he rectifies the blunder that was the playoffs, I don't think they could confidently put him on the team.
No, I agree completely. So my 3 goalies, I'll come out with it, are the same as yours, with Kemper in there. I didn't consider Fleury, and I think that's a really good pick, especially if you're okay with just placing him as your third, and he can go in if someone's injured. But I actually have I've got a little surprise here. I have Hart as my starter. I think by that time in his career, he's going to be ready for that kind of thing. And with Luongo up in the assistant general manager's role, they had the quote, "Their youth will be served." So I see that as a real changing of the guard, which means a going away of the price and these kinds of things. So I have Hart as my starter. Now, as long as he's steady. I mean, if he falters, he's got 2 good guys behind him. And then I have Kemper as my backup here.
Wow.
I think Price is, I don't think Price is the same kind of guy anymore. I'm not going to lie. And that's coming from a Montreal fan. Like this season he's done nothing to impress me. A lot of people are talking about how great he was in the bubble last year. I thought he was good, but he wasn't like amazing. Like he didn't steal many games. He wasn't out of this world. So Price will be there. I think he's going to be more of a mentor role. But I do have Kemper as just, the stats, the skill. Like this guy's got just stellar numbers on teams that are worse than Montreal, So he deserves to be there. His first little taste of big stage Team Canada action. I think he's got a world championship under his belt or something like that. But I included an extra here, Nick, as well. They're going to need a bit of magic. So I included the Hamburglar as my extra. You always have to have a magic pick. I'm going to have an extra for each and every piece here. And they're going to be magic picks.
I'm just not going to comment on that one. I'm surprised how little emphasis you put on loyalty and just
right.
Career, what you've done for Team Canada, the program.
Nick, I think loyalty will get Price there. Like if Price wasn't Price, he wouldn't be there.
But usually loyalty means you got the gig, and the only way you're going to lose the gig is if you show you've lost it. And until he's shown he's lost it, which the NHL doesn't count, that's one thing. The world stage is another. Until in my mind, until he shows he can falter, then you don't pass the baton to the next generation until the old generation falters.
Right. Yeah.
That's just my mindset.
I could see that. It's not how I would do it, but
yeah. It might. Yeah, and it might backfire. But I mean, worst case scenario, he puts up a bad game in the prelims, and it doesn't really affect him. So. Okay,
yeah, that's all it would take. Yeah,
defense.
Yeah, this was the hardest part for me. Like the forwards, I had a lot of fun with. Like defense for me wasn't fun. It was hard to do,
especially because like a lot of it is like left side, right side. It's tough to prognosticate who's okay playing both sides. Like I don't know. I didn't know how much to read into that. And so
I didn't read too much, no. But
so this is really just my 6. Like if you're listening to this, don't assume I know who's playing on which side. Just say these are Nick's 6 defensemen, and then I have 2 extras as well.
Sure.
So my top 2, and this is my top 2, and I'm going in a tandem approach. And honestly, it's not my top 2. Like the top 2 pairings are interchangeable, so there really isn't one that's I'd say better than the other. But I would have Cale Makar.
Yeah.
Alongside Colton Parayko.
Wow.
So I would want a puck mover along with a stout, back end, long reach, hard hitter guy. And I just watched too many Blue games to know that Parayko is kind of the next Pietrangelo there. That seems to be a reason they were fine letting Pietrangelo walk. Just seems like a stud, never makes a clumsy decision. He's matured a lot more since when he was a kid. I think he's had enough reps to really be a star now. And I think if you just have the elite puck mover who can take risks, and then a guy who can back him up and back check and worry about the stuff on the back end, I think that's a recipe for success. So Makar, Parayko. And then my second pairing is a tandem that already exists in the NHL. And that would be Alex Pietrangelo and Shea Theodore. Pietrangelo is probably not so much a shocker because he's been there before, been there, done that. He isn't quite he isn't quite dowdy old yet, so you can justify him being there. Leadership, again, a guy stout on the back end, and then you contrast it with Theodore, a puck mover, guy who can play on the power play, a guy who's blossomed in the last 2 years. 2 years ago, he would not be on this list, but after the playoffs I think he has to be considered here. And apparently this is the tandem in Vegas. I mean, it's been kind of a mess so far with the COVIDs. They haven't had too many games together. But I think if things go well this year, if this tandem comes to fruition, then I see no hesitation with this. And then my third pairing would be Dougie Hamilton and Morgan Riley. So again, so two puck movers, but again, I'd say Morgan, a little more of a high-risk player. Guy who jumps up more than Dougie. And then Dougie can kind of do both things. He's a puck mover. He can play on the power play, but he's also a steady stay-at-home guy. And again, you got big guys with long reaches here, like Pietrangelo, Parayko, Hamilton, like three guys, and then three puck movers, Makar, Theodore, Riley. So that's kind of the mindset here. And that's my defense. I don't think it's the best defense in the tournament. I think it's far from it. That accolade I'd probably have to give to the United States. But that's my six. And then my extras are Drew Doughty for loyalty's sake, and Jared Spurgeon of the Minnesota.
No.
Yeah. So there you go.
Oh, come on. Okay, yeah, no. Like I said, this one wasn't fun. My top pair, Makar and Pietrangelo. You got to have. I think I like that pair there because, like I said, Makar's going to do all that offense, and Pietrangelo is going to be that steady force, long reach, defense first in this role. So that's good there. Now, my second pair, another puck mover. I have Tommy Shabbat. I decided to plug him in. I think this is a guy. If you take him out of Ottawa, you'd see him with a lot better of numbers. I think he gets underrated a lot. He was a hero on the World Junior team. I think by 2022, he'll be ready for this kind of bigger role. And he's got some size on him, too. He's got that long, lengthy, spidery reach. And I'm going to pair him with a Dougie Hamilton, who's a good all-arounder. He's not going to be expected to put up huge numbers here. But I think that's going to be a good solid pair. My third pair here, I will include Shea Theodore. Just because of what he's done in the last 2 years. Like you said, he's kind of earned that role. He's someone you'd never think of when we came out of the 2016 World Cup. But this guy's just, he's proven himself. And with him, I'm going to pair Aaron Ekblad. He's quietly having a really fantastic year, Aaron Ekblad, putting up really great numbers. He's now being trusted on that top power play. Always been a really good shutdown guy. And I think you're seeing now the Florida is turning the keys over from Yandel. They're just giving everything to Ekblad right now. So watch him continue to mature this year, continue to mature next year, and he's going to be ready for this depth Canada defense kind of role, shutdown guy. I like the way he's really grown up in the last couple as well, though he won't get all the spotlight. And my extra will be Ryan Ellis. A little spitfire, a lot of energy, a lot of good all-around play. He can put up the numbers, really smart defensively, and he's a World Junior hero as well. And you can't have too many of those. So I don't like the defense. Yeah, I mean, it's hard, man. A lot of these guys I simply don't like. Like, it pains me to put a Dougie Hamilton on here. Like, I don't think he's earned this kind of spotlight, but it's so unanimous, and he has done so well the last couple of years. I guess you kind of have to give it to him. So, yeah, it's kind of a change. This is where the changing of the guard is really, really apparent here. Like, gone are the Webbers and those kinds of guys, and the Dowdies I don't have. Like, it's sad. It's sad to see.
Yeah. So that, based on my calculation here, that's 4 of 6 we have the same. And
right.
I mean, yeah, it's all valid. Like, I see like Shabbat and Ekblad are coming in for you, and coming in for me is Morgan Riley and Colton Parayko.
Right.
I'm shocked you don't have Parayko there, but maybe that's because you just don't watch as much of the Blues as I do.
Probably. Like, I would like to put in Parayko in place of Hamilton, if anything, because I think he might be more stout defensively. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'd even argue more than Ekblad.
Right. I don't know. I'd have Ekblad there. I like Ekblad.
But yeah, they're all interchangeable, and I think we can both agree. It's at least if we can agree on one thing, it's that this is probably. I don't want to say it's their weakness, but like, would you say this is more of a weakness or the goaltending? What's the Achilles heel here?
Boy,
because it's certainly not the forwards.
I think it's the goaltending, Nick. I do.
Okay.
Okay. If you peel back the layers, Makar is the best offensive defenseman in hockey in 2022. Bar none. That's what I think. Pietrangelo, like, a lot of people consider him one of the better defensive defensemen, right? And then these other guys, the rest of the guys we have on here, a lot of them are young, and a lot of them are like, we could be totally, blown away by them in a year and a half. We don't know. So it's hard, but I can't consider it a weakness if you've got guys like Makar and those kind of guys on there. And elder statesmen like Pietrangelo, or like, he's got huge value there. So, yeah, I like it.
Fair enough.
It's not
Fair
like,
enough.
I mean, like, the U.S. has like Slavin and McAvoy and these stalwart defense. Like, I know, I get it, but it's like, it's still going to be good. They're going to be mobile. They're going to be offensive. Actually, compared to 2016, the last time we did a best on best, this is going to be a lot more offense-focused defense. Would you agree?
Yeah, which speaks to how the game has changed, right?
Exactly.
The game has transitioned to younger, faster, puck-moving defense, and I think the rosters will show that. But moving on to the fun part, it was the most fun part for me.
Oh God.
And that's the forwards. I will basically tell you. What do you want?
Can we go line by line? Like, you do first line, I'll do first line.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. What I will also say is, like, when I state a line, I will tell you the order at which I made them, because like I have ordered them, but I had like a gut reaction to just immediately put a line there, whereas others I had to actually put some thought into concocting.
Yes.
So
yes.
This first line, I have McKinnon as the center. I have McDavid on his wing, on his left wing, and on the right wing, I have Matt Barzal. So that is like my first line. It is like just explosiveness. I'm throwing everything at you, and
pure speed. What the fuck?
Pure speed, and I think it's wonderous. And
my God.
and Barzal was my second thought on this line. All I'll say with this line is my first candidate for that right wing spot was Mark Stone. But
I knew you'd say that.
I will get into another. I will get into why I put Mark Stone where I put him when I get there. But I just I felt, you know what, you probably don't need like the best play driver on this line with these two guys. Like like, you don't need an amazing guy with these two guys, but I also want speed that can keep up with them. And so I was like, why not Matt Barzal? So again, very much amenable to change. This line could just look shit after one game, but I would just be curious to see this line in action. Like, literally the 3 fastest forwards in the league, arguably.
Agreed. That would be unbelievable. And I had so many temptations to do a similar thing. but I resisted. I think I went a little more conservative.
Okay.
My first line will feature McDavid at center,
Okay.
Barzell on the right.
Okay.
So we're almost there, right?
Yeah.
But then I figured, these guys are going to be skating all over the place. They're going to be controlling the puck, possession first, all that kind of stuff.
For sure.
Who do I want to then finish plays? I got Steven Stamkos in there. And it pains me to do that. Of course it does. But I wanted to get a pure finisher. And if you look up and down the lineup, you've got Steven Stamkos as perhaps the most one-dimensional, pure, I'm going to score goals, get me the puck. Like, he's smart enough to get into those zones, but I could see McDavid, Barzell, controlling the puck, scoring off the rush together if they need to. But if they're in the zone, Stamkos is going to get open. He's got the one-timer. He's going to finish those plays off. And I wanted to keep McKinnon off that line to give them that dual threat. And my second line is going to be my favorite line of all time, perhaps of all time hockey, period. So I can't wait to get to it.
And I have a feeling where you're going with this. And all I'll say in rebuttal to that is I do not have Steven Stamkos on my roster.
And you know what, Nick? If I didn't have Stamkos where I have him now, he wouldn't be on my roster either. Like, I didn't want to put him here, but who else do you see on this roster who's pretty much 40 goals every year for his whole career?
I see the fit. I see the fit, but I don't know where else he would fit. And that's why, because of his one-dimensionality, I just can't have him on my roster.
Right.
Especially where guys might get injured, him being a very injury-prone guy. I just want health too,
Sure.
Okay. Second line. So these next two lines, I just wrote down without even thinking about it. So my second line is the classic Sidney Crosby center with Marchand and Bergeron. And that's all I'm gonna like. Nothing else needs to be said. They've done it. They've proven they're amazing. Like, puck possession wise, this line will dominate. Defensively, this line will dominate. Crosby just seems to have those two guys already have unreal chemistry. Are arguably the most dynamic duo in the league. And then you insert Crosby there. They've played together before. I'd be willing to bet they'd be just fine together. I know some people who are omitting Bergeron from their roster. But to me, I don't know how you can do that. And
it's a blunder.
And this is just too potent a line and too proven. So that's my second line.
So this second line for me, if this line happens, I'm getting all 3 jerseys.
Wow.
And I'm inviting 2 friends out to northern Quebec. And we're going to all play as long as we fucking can. Because what I'm going to deliver to you right now, Nick, is the Nova Scotia line.
Wow.
Marchand, Crosby, McKinnon on the wing. This is what I'll deliver to you today. And it needs to happen. These guys train together all summer in Nova Scotia. They're good buddies. They're community guys. If there's any line that you're going to see out there just playing pond hockey, it's these 3 guys. This is going to make my decade of the 20s. This would be so fantastic. Built-in chemistry. You've got it all. You've got experience. You've got skill. Like, I could see this line doing better than the McDavid line, personally. It's just such fan service for me.
No, it sounds great.
I had to include it. Yeah,
it sounds great, and I see the rationale in splitting up McDavid and McKinnon, right?
And Nick, the next line is going to be your mix a batch line.
I know. I've seen your line. I rarely look at what the Rink Moose man is saying on Twitter, but I know where you're going with this, and I got some comments. But
okay, can I jump in on number 3 then?
Yeah, and this one was no hesitation.
Okay, so the shutdown line of all time. Bergeron centering Mark Stone and Sean Couturier on the left. 3 perennial Selke guys. Like, I considered Ryan O'Reilly in the Couturier spot, but I have him as my extra instead. But this line, put him up against the Matthews line, put him up against any fucking line you want. No one's getting by this. I'm sorry. Like, there's too much intelligence here. There's too much responsibility. There's going to be like sound positioning out the wazoo. It's incredible. This is like your speed line, but for defense. This is what this is.
It's Couturier, Stone, and who's the third?
Bergeron.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't dislike it. My main criticism for you would be I think you underestimate just how much of a play driver Mark Stone is. Like I think you I feel like he's a wasted asset if you just make him a checker or a defensive Selke guy. Like this guy can seriously pass the puck around. This guy has a high hockey IQ offensively. I just don't want to see him reduced to the checker. And I think he's that valued an asset. I just don't want to do that to him. And so I get it. And you'll see my line with him. It's fairly similar. But I don't want to see him reduced to that role, but I also don't want to see him like on my top line as being a wasted asset when like with McKinnon, McDavid. So but I get what you're saying, and I can't really complain. My third line, again, no hesitation here. Braden Point centering John Tavares and Mitch Marner.
Oh.
So I want the Toronto chemistry that I know is there. And again, you'll notice this is a theme for me. It's duos. McKinnon, McDavid, Bergeron, Marchand, Marner, Tavares. I like these duos, and I feel like Braden Point would work really well with the Mitchell Marner. I just think this line has a lot of potential. I mean, Tavares would do a lot of the dirty work. Point could do a lot of the dirty work. Marner would spread the peanut butter around pretty good. I like having two guys who have very good chemistry together there, and I think Point could keep up with them. Braden Point's got to be on your roster. I sure hope he's on your fourth line. So that would be my third line.
Mm. You know what? My fourth line is very similar to your third line. My fourth line includes Braden Point on the left, Mitch Marner on the right, and in place of Tavares, Mark Scheifele, who I think today is better than Tavares, and I think in a year he's going to be much better than Tavares.
Okay.
And perhaps not as sound defensively, but I look at this as a very intelligent, heady, smart line. Point and Marner goes without saying, and then Scheifele will be a great distributor to these guys. With Point or Scheifele being able to finish off plays, like it's just a very intelligent, like we said on the World Junior thing, that the brain line. So that's my fourth line. Interchange them with the third here and there, whatever you want to do. And this is just a fucking awesome lower half of the forward group.
My fourth line is Ryan O'Reilly centering Mark Stone and Mark Scheifele. I know what you're thinking. Why is he putting Scheifele on the wing?
No, that's fine. That's fine. I laugh at your delivery of the line.
Oh,
it's just funny.
Yeah, no, this would be my favorite line because it's probably got my two favorite players on the team on the line. And like I said, I like Mark Stone on this line because I feel like I wouldn't just have them be checkers. Like I would have this as a line that I would have four lines that I could run that can drive offense. I would not designate checking versus scoring. And this line could run offense. And the main driver would be Mark Stone. And I think him and O'Reilly would have an instantaneous chemistry. And then I just want a smart guy playing with them because I know those are two smart, Selke guys. And I think Mark Scheifele's as smart as they come. So that would be my third line. And then my two extras, if I may, would be Sean Couturier, just because I think he's a nice hybrid. He's a nice Swiss Army knife. Plug him in when I want and can win face-offs if I need like a face-off specialist. And you're gonna hate this one, but again, loyalty. This is almost like a Drew Doughty one. just because he plays so fucking hard, and this guy gives it all he has every single night. Logan Couture would be my other extra. So there you have it.
Yeah, well. Yeah, I mean, well, hey, I'm not saying my Couturier, Bergeron, Stone line aren't going to score goals. It's just here's what I'll say in rebuttal to that. Stone, yes, he can drive offense with some of the best players in the league, but on this team, he could drive offense probably on the lower half of the forward group in general. But I think he's the best defensive winger on the team. Period. So I think to maximize his value, that's where I'd put him, is on that shutdown line. But yeah, no complaints there. I'll give you my two extras here. Ryan O'Reilly for very similar reasons to your Sean Couturier, Swiss Army knife, experience too. And then Jordan Eberle, of course, for the Magic.
Yeah, no, and that's your bias pick, just like Couture is my bias pick. And that's all fun and games. So
that's half in jest, right? Yeah.
As far as omissions, so it looks like the one omission you have that I had, or two, is Tavares and Couture.
Yeah.
And the two omissions I have are Eberle and Stamkos. Yeah. So
okay, well, so the Eberle pick is kind of just for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, regardless.
If you were thinking rationally without the rose-colored glasses on, who's a more who like if you were setting a bet like in Vegas, if you actually had to think this through, who would you have?
Lafreniere.
we will get to Mr. Lafreniere in short order.
I
actually saw a roster. I saw a projection with him on the team.
Like recently?
Yeah.
No, you did.
The guy was like, I think by then he will be mature enough to be their extra forward.
You never know. You never know. Well, You're saying who would I have as an extra in place of Eberle?
Yeah.
Boy, yeah, that's hard. Shit. I don't want to, this is kind of lame, but no, maybe it's not. No, it's pretty lame, but I'll come out with it. Boy, oh boy. I could see them wanting to place like a Gallagher in there, to be honest. Like a spark plug, a grinder, a guy who's going to do everything for the team. I could also see a Nugent Hopkins that you could plug in with McDavid and just not have to worry about chemistry with him, like they did with fucking Chris Kunitz back in the 2014 Olympics. Nugent Hopkins could be the Chris Kunitz of this team potentially. Okay. So I'd take Gallagher in there, someone you can keep him as your seventh forward or whatever, or your extra forward and plug him in whenever.
Sure. Okay, and then the biggest question of all. You get to choose 4 personalities to have on your coaching staff.
Oh,
you get to have a head coach, a guy running the forwards, a guy running the defense, and a guy up in the press box. I believe that's the traditional format they usually have. So who would be your... I'll state my 4, and then I guess you're unprepared. I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, that's... Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. You want to guess who my head coach is? Come on, it's easy.
Ooh. Your buddy in Vegas.
The clown is the head coach, Pete DeBoer. He is my head coach, and he will be helped alongside with Barry Trotz and Claude Julien, a good veteran coaching group. I believe Julien was there with Babcock 4 years ago. He's experienced at the international level. And then I don't think Trotz was there, but I just think the way he's been, the yeoman's work he's done with the Islanders just earns him a spot automatically. So it would be Pete DeBoer, young, inexperienced, has never been in this role, and then he'd have 2 older guys on his shoulders. And then if I had to have an extra, I don't even know. I mean, I don't think Babcock's on my coaching staff. I don't think I could do that. So I'll just leave it at that. Three strong names there, and that's it.
Okay. Well, I've got one for you.
If I had to have a fourth, I'd probably have like Rod Brindamore, a guy who could just pump up the lads, you know, who could just run in and just yell and just get them fired up. Because those three guys are more old souls. I'd want a younger guy who can relate to them a little more, you know? So
that's a good point. You know what? I'll give you one extra there in replacement of Gallant. Bruce Boudreau.
So an
That's who I'd have.
Coach you'd have.
I want my red-faced, plump little superstar behind the net, behind the bench. The guys would drive through a wall for this guy, and that's what's going to win you championships.
Okay, I like that.
But yeah, I mean, I like your other picks. Barry Trotz for the defense, sure, yeah.
No John Cooper.
Oh no!
God no!
No! Come on!
You might see it.
Do you want me to cheer? You want me to cheer for this team or not?
If I had to make a bet right now, I would wager he will be one of the four.
Yeah,
I would wager. Just given
I agree.
the run he had last year and the track record and the fact players could he seems like a guy the players could talk to and relate to. I think he'd be one of the four. So I will safely make that prediction. But not on my team, not on my watch.
No. So
there's only room for one lawyer.
Yeah. What do you think of Roberto Luongo being brought on as an assistant general manager, having no experience in the role?
That's a weird one.
Why did they bring him in? Is it for I want an insider's player perspective? What's going on here?
I think so. I think a guy who can talk to the players probably has 80% of these guys on speed dial. He's probably friends with a lot of them. And just a little someone who has a little more of a personal connection to the player. He's not in this bureaucratic managerial role. He's a hybrid. He's a guy who's made that transition to a manager, but he's still kind of a player because this guy only retired a year or two ago. And he's a lovable guy. Everyone loves him. So I think I wouldn't read too much into it. He's going to have such a big footprint on the team. He's going to have his finger on the pulse. I wouldn't say that, but he's more there as a presence.
Yeah, it was just so funny because to me, he went from goalie to social media goof to now assistant general manager picking the team. It's crazy.
Sure. It was pretty shocking.
Yeah, I'm sure they're just going to be kind of advisory, run ideas by him and see what he thinks of it kind of thing.
Sure.
I like it.
All right. Are we ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay.
We got to save these rosters too.
I did. I wrote them all down, and we're going to go back to them in a year, and we're going to see who got more right. Yeah, it's all chronicled here. But I just think it's a good segue. Speaking of managerial usage and just that theme, I think we got to transition to the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Whoa!
Who made a blockbuster move. At least I didn't see it happening this quickly. I mean, we talked last show with Joe about Jim Rutherford retiring with Pitt. That was breaking news 2 weeks ago. That's and right. in short order, they have already found their GM and a new president of hockey ops, and those roles will be filled by Ron Hextall and Brian Burke, respectively. So you probably have more thoughts on this, given you are the resident Penguins fan. So why don't I just turn it to you to get the opening thoughts?
Opening thoughts. How do I? Yeah, it's hard to capture exactly what I thought immediately. First of all, I was thrilled with the Hextall signing. Hextall as a GM, I really liked what he did in Philly. I remember distinctly when they fired him. To me, it came to me right away. This is premature. I love the work he's done already. Why are they getting rid of him just when it's starting to turn around? This is a guy who drafted Konechny, drafted Carter Hart, Provorov, Lindblom, Sanheim. Patrick Farabee, all these guys. He signed Couturier to a 6-year deal, $4.33 million AAV. That's looking like a darling deal. He brought in JVR, who's doing unreal right now. He's near the top of the scoring leaderboard. And he's just a well-respected figure. It sounds like he's got a good eye for scouting, and he makes a lot of rational moves, in my opinion. What I heard after I did a little digging was that he was a very much a one-man show. He didn't like to get a lot of help from, others, and he didn't like to consult, ownership and that kind of thing. There was a disconnect. There was a divide between, him and the upper management that was above him. So that meant to me, initial thoughts was, wow, Ron Hextall's a great GM. I know Brian Burke's a big personality and he's got a lot of opinions of his own. Are these guys going to mesh? Are they going to get along? Is it Ron Hextall's team and Burke is just this sounding board where we can use his contacts and run ideas by him? Or is Burke going to be what many people think Burke to be, is this guy who likes to take control? That autocratic leadership, like, let's, I want to do things my way, set my culture. It's hard to imagine this kind of coming together in a fluent way. So that was my initial thought. And then when I really kind of looked deeper into it, I think Hextall is going to take a firm grasp, and I think Burke is going to be kind of more of a secondary role. If they can get that established, I think we've got a really good formula here.
So 2 things for me. The first is they're clearly doing something here where they are deferring certain responsibilities that a GM would do to 2 different people. So it sounds like Hextall will be the more behind the scenes. I'm doing all the work. I'm running all the transactions. All the player personnel stuff is originating from my brain, which I think is the right move. He had a splendid record in Philly, was ousted prematurely. You give him the baton knowing he can do that. I think he was like a scout in LA before they had their 2 cups. So the player personnel side, this guy just gets. But you also haven't seen him, he's not one of the more outspoken guys in hockey. You don't see him on the camera a lot. He's just not a very pronounced figure. And so I think he will be the guy making those moves. And then Brian Burke is coming in to be their spokesman, the guy with the microphone who can handle the media, do all the press conferences. He's done it in 5 different organizations at this point. He just came off a media gig where he seems to have redeemed his rep. I feel like more people like him now, if that makes any sense. Back in the day, he was like a villain with the moves he made in Toronto and just botching from Canadian city to Canadian city, Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto. And now he's worked this rapport. He's friends with Tim and Sid. He's friends with the Overdrive guys. If they want to have him on to explain a deal that they make, he's a lovable guy they just talk to. And so I think it's perfect. I love the move. I like Brian Burke. I don't agree with all of his takes. I think sometimes they're almost so bad it's Don Cherry-like. Who's this old senile man telling me this? But I think I have a lot of respect for him. We see the game similarly, me and him. We like heavy hockey, old school. We think the same way. He's a trained lawyer from Harvard. I have respect for this guy. And so I like what they're doing here. I like how Mario's thinking. I'm going to find 2 people to fill 1 role. And they're both going to do different things, and they're both going to defer responsibilities, and they will find a way to coexist. So that's point 1. Point 2 is when they made this move, I'm like, okay, well, what does this mean for the future of the Penguins? Does it mean rebuild? Does it mean another kick at the can? Joe asked you what you thought. I think we know where you sit. And I'd say that's more in line with what we're hearing, which is they're going for one last kick at the can. And it's fascinating because if you read, did you read the Brian Burke quotes, when he was with Sportsnet, when he analyzed the Pens?
I think I heard something about that where he said they're not good enough or something like that.
So here's from The Athletic. Here's what he recently said. Quote, "It is the same thing Jimmy Rutherford is saying in Pittsburgh. I've got 2 elite players. We're not going into a total rebuild. We're going to try to win. I don't think Pittsburgh is good enough to win. No matter what they do now with their cap situation, I think that window is closed. I love Jimmy Rutherford, you know that, but I look in the East and I say, are you better than Tampa? No. Are you better than Washington? No. Are you better than Boston? No. And he was asked about that, and he basically says, like, I don't take it back. But at the same time, I acknowledge there's these two great players who've won 2 cups for this organization, and I still have them under control. So he acknowledged, like, I'm glad he acknowledged the fact he made those comments, but it's interesting how he's having to kind of flip his tune here. And I'm curious, in his job interview, when they asked him what he thought of the team, I wonder which answer he gave them, the rebuild answer or the we got to go for it answer. I assume it's the we got to go for it to get the job. You have to say that. So it's fascinating. Oh, my God. And you know what? I picked up Casey DeSmith tonight in fantasy simply because I had a feeling. I have a feeling the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to go on a little bit of a run here, Nick. I think just the new energy, there's like really positive energy around this team. But I mean, I took a look at it, man. Like say they were to do a retool and they want to, you know, shuffle the deck a little bit, send out value, bring in, you know, new exuberant value. It's hard. It is so hard to do. I looked at the market. The guys that you'd have to move have big cap hits. They've got zero picks in the 2021 draft, apart from like one of their second rounders. They're decimated with draft picks. I think Pierre said it best. The first thing they do, they walk up to Sid Crosby to shake his hand and say, "What do you think we need around here?" That was such a great quote by Pierre. And then I'll go back again to something Burke said in one of his interviews was, 16 years ago, I lost the draft lottery to Pittsburgh Penguins, and I lost Sidney Crosby. Now I have Sidney Crosby. I do like that. This is so great, man. This is awesome. So it's just, there's a new energy, man. Like I said to Joe, and he liked the quote, they need this youthful exuberance. This is an energy in a different way, and I think it's a good, positive one because this management group's going to come in, and they're just going to be like, they're going to be confident, but I don't think they can make any moves this year. Like, honestly, I think we're going to be a whole lot of wait and see. Like, they're going to make their presence known. They're going to make their culture known, but pretty much nothing's going to happen this year, which is a little bit of a letdown because there's simply nothing can really go down. I looked at the market, man. You can't trade a Letang. I'd love to trade a Letang. For the record, I think Letang's a little bit overrated in this whole thing. If you remember, the Pittsburgh Penguins won the 2017 Cup, and Letang didn't barely play in the playoffs at all. They did it without him. The guy's always injured. He's a great defenseman, but he's always injured. He just causes problems, you know? Mm-hmm. So, to me, he's the first guy to go. And the first thing they need to bring in, a really solid defenseman. You can get by on your offense right now. Goaltending is another thing. But you need a solid defenseman that you can lean on. And Dumoulin's great, Marino's great, P.O. Joseph, thank God he's emerging. But you need that presence. You know, they don't have that. They haven't had that for a while. So I look at a guy, and tell me if this makes any sense to you, because you'd know better, like a Vlasic. He's on the latter end of his career, but he's a presence. You want nothing Plug him in your bottom pair. To do with Vlasic. What? Come on. He's far from his good days, and his cap. You're talking about the bad cap that is Chris Letang or these old other washed up the guys. The cap hit on him is not friendly, and he's far beyond his good years. Do not touch. I get your philosophy. I get you need that. You need a player in his mold, but do not go there. Do not go Mark-Edward Vlasic. Not even as a bottom pair. No, I'd be shocked. Wow. It's not happening. Fallen off that. He's fallen off. He has fallen off, Kyle. He has fallen off. Oh my God. He's fallen off. That's why he wasn't even in my long list of defensemen for that Team Canada team. He is gone. That is just disappointing. He's on his own island. But what I will say is, like, I agree they can't make too many major deals this year. But I think the rhetoric this year is, like you said, what Pierre said, just find out what is it that you need to make a run at it this year. And then the hard conversation, which is the future, like what our window is, what we can do here, I think that's had this summer. because we both know this draft coming up is weak. And so it doesn't matter if they don't have a pick. It's fine. Just try to run it back. Try to win a title this year. It's those younger teams that are still grooming themselves, the Rangers, they're not quite there yet. Next year, they're going to be better. That team might be the team that takes your playoff spot. But this year, you still got a shot. And I think that's what they do. And then this summer, if they want to discuss rebuild, they can do that. And then they can offload Letang because he'll only have a year left on his deal, and that'll be more digestible. Or a Malkin. And then all of a sudden, tanking becomes something you could possibly do with Shane Wright.
Oh my God!
And because you're not doing that this year, you can't do that this year. But if the boys give you the go ahead this summer, maybe, right? You have a pick that year. If you're gonna play the draft, you're playing for the 2022 draft. You're not playing for this draft. So play to win this year. Do that. That's what Mario wants. But I'm saying next year is a wild card, and that's all gonna have to do with the conversation that's had with Sid.
But the pressure right now is that Sid Crosby's 33, turning 34 this summer. And you got like 2 or 3 more serviceable number one center years out of him. 2 or 3 more. You can't spend one of those in a rebuild. That's the problem. He'd be gone. He'd be gone. Like you're gonna have even a tank year. That's because then that new guy you bring in, that new guy is for the next regime. That's for when Crosby's gone, and that's just not fair. This
summer, Crosby might be thinking about the next regime, and he might say, "All right, if you guys want to trade me, I'm cool with it."
Right. Well, that'll be it'll have to be totally up to him. And what we know about Crosby is a creature of habit. This guy doesn't like to try new things. Honestly, it took him many years to switch to a fully composite stick. For Christ's sake. I don't know. It's so fascinating to see what could go down here. But you're right. The doomsday clock is ticking on this team. Like, we're going to learn so much in the next couple of weeks with where they're at. But I do think they go on a little run, and we'll see. We'll see. But there's so much that can happen, man. Like, I have. Well, you know what? Fuck. You talk about tanking. Like, they were in the lottery this year. Like, they were already in a shit spot this year. So it's not totally out of the question. But
that's what I'm saying. It's all going to have to be based on that conversation. I think they've quickly worked themselves into being like a top, like they're right at the top of the food chain as far as interesting management storylines moving forward in the next.
Well, let me ask you this. The core of Crosby, Malkin, Gensel, sure put in Letang. Do you think they can still hang with the big boys in this league? That core versus like a Tampa core.
No, they can't. And he said that. He said that himself. Like Burke said, are they Washington? Are they Tampa? He puts them against them. They aren't. So what they're saying is we need to improve the roster. But how are you going to do that when you have no draft picks to give away and no draft prospects to give away? Like Scott Wheeler just posted his top organizational rankings, and they're right at the bottom. They're like 30th. So what are they going to do? They're gonna trade good veterans for good veterans? Because that's the only thing I can see, because they don't have picks and they don't have prospects.
Right.
It's such a tough position to be in.
They're against the cap too.
It's such a tough position. That's why I'm so intrigued to see what this mastermind, so to speak, does.
If that's your stance, if you don't think this core can stack up against the other cores, then you do need to shuffle the whole deck. Then you do need to do a serious retool. Now, the way I see it is I see it as this core is still good enough to go up against, some of the best cores in the league. I just don't like what surrounds the core, the supplementary pieces. That's where I think that this team falls off a bit, the goaltending included. So I still think Crosby, Malkin, and company, and I think Gensel's underrated. They can still do a lot. They can still do a lot of damage. Like, against Washington's core, yeah, maybe I'll take the Pittsburgh core against those guys. Like Carlson, Backstrom, Kuznetsov, Ovechkin versus the Pittsburgh couple. I'd take Pittsburgh's guys. It's just what surrounds Washington is better. So if the general managers can, retool the surrounding pieces, I think that's the only options they have in the short term, at least. Then that's how they're going to make their money here. I just don't know what that looks like, and it's going to be very, very tricky with the cap. But I mean, we could sit here all day, speculate all day. These guys have a hard fucking job. They didn't walk into this like with a good plate of dinner on their tables. This is going to be hard, very, very hard. This is going to be career-defining general manager work here, Nick.
Mm-hmm. And I do love the Brian Burke quote. Like, people were like, "Oh, you looked like you were enjoying yourself on Sportsnet. Like, why'd you leave?" And he's like, "Honestly, I loved it, but there's nothing better than hopping into a bus after a game, getting 2 points, and cracking a beer." I was like, what a line.
What a guy. This is great.
Yeah.
You want this guy in your organization.
I do. Yeah,
I do.
I'm more I've never been a Pens fan, but I'm rooting for them more now than I was before. But I still don't have them as a 4 in that division. I think it's too stacked. And I think that game tonight between Islanders Pittsburgh, I think that will be the litmus test. Those will be the two butting heads.
Right.
Because I think
Nick?
Philly, Boston, and Washington are just in another league.
They're locks, right? Yeah, you know what? This has changed things for me. This is me now putting Pittsburgh in that grouping. They're going to be number 4 for me.
Okay, good.
Let me run a one quick thing by you, just because it's fantasy land, because it's fun. Get Marc-Andre Fleury back, right? Come on,
maybe
they don't.
I thought I had that thought.
Hey, that's real.
But do they? Can you said cap? You were talking about their cap earlier.
Yeah.
He's like the opposite of that. And again, the Fleury crusade like keeps going. Like I'm telling, this is breaking news as of an hour ago. Robin Leonard injured in Vegas, and so this is literally Fleury's ball now. Like he had been out playing up to this point, and now you have a Leonard injury. Apparently, Leonard showed up to the rink he was supposed to start, told them he can't start, and just left the rink.
No way.
Yep, that's what happened.
Nick, holy shit.
That happened an hour ago.
Who would have thought that this whole Leonard situation would flip so quick? Like I said, 4 months ago, Fleury was the bad guy with the sword through his back.
Yeah.
And now Leonard is this random, strange, like, what is he up to, man? We all penciled him in for best goalie of the year, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what is going on?
And I'm happy because the first thing I wanted was one of those guys to just die so I could run 3 goalies now instead of 4. So now I can pick up a forward and finally have a team. So this will be interesting. And stay tuned. That's all I'm going to say to the audience. Stay checked in on this story because it's developing by the minute here. So and he's posted a shutout through one period and he's continued to be great. So stay tuned on that. And yeah, moving on to I guess the other kind of big subtopic outside of that Canada projection we were going to do is what the hell is going on in Columbus?
Oh my God.
We talked about, again, this another one of those things we talked about 2 weeks ago. It was our lead last week. We did the whole Dubois trade analysis, and it all ultimately erupted into more of a Leaf talk, a Leaf versus Winnipeg 1v1 with Joe.
I wonder how that happened.
Now that he's not here to ruin the show, and no, I kid, Joe. I love you, Joe. But now we can get into kind of what's happened here because both guys have made their debut. Obviously, Laine he put up the numbers. I mean, I believe he had 3 points in 3 games. He was scoring like goal like slap shots from the top of the zone. Like the scorer was there. But of course there were some disciplinary issues. So the other day he was benched for what was reported to be non-hockey related, non-performance related. And it turns out it was because he basically they call it verbally disrespected a coach. And this is the most recent update I got this morning. So this was practice today or yesterday.
Yeah.
Patrick Laine stepped onto the ice several minutes before practice on Wednesday and skated straight up to Blue Jackets assistant coach Brad Larson, who runs their forward group. Laine and Larson peeled away from the group and had a lengthy one-on-one conversation in one corner of the rink while the rest of the players swirled and fired pucks on goal. It appeared an amiable chat, and it ended with Laine tapping Larson twice on the chest and Larson lightly swatting Laine's shin guard with his stick blade. That's how hockey players say, quote, "It's all good, man." The controversy that had swirled in Columbus since Monday, when Blue Jackets coach Tortorella benched Laine for the final 26-19 of the win over Carolina, came to a breezy end on Wednesday. That's from Aaron Portsmouth, the great Aaron Portsmouth on The Athletic.
Isn't it Port's line?
Oh, yeah. What am I saying? Portsmouth is the bar here in Kingston, the Portsmouth Tavern. I've spent too much time there lately, so that's why I've got that.
God. Who's breaking COVID rules?
Aaron Port's line. So there's the story. We finally got what we would. It was shitty not having closure on that story, but now it looks like you can read into. I mean, it looks true enough, given that was literally what people saw them having that conversation. So now that they've had some closure here and it's come full circle, and Columbus being winners tonight in a 6-5 crazy game against Chicago, Laine with an assist. Kyle, what do you make? What do you make? And played 20 minutes, by the way. So Kyle, what do you make of this story?
Boy, yeah. Well, the funny thing is, when we heard he got benched, everyone was pointing to a couple shifts where he just kind of looked like he lacked a little bit of effort. And it's funny because everyone latched onto that idea, like, oh yeah, look, he's not trying here. But it didn't even turn out to be that. It turned out to be him mouthing off to a coach. So I just find it funny. Could you imagine the gall you'd have to come to a new team and then mouth off to a coach? Like, who do you think you are? This guy is insane, man. You can't be serious. And especially with, a guy like Torts is sitting right there. I'd love to know what he said, but could you imagine the gall to say that kind of thing? But that's always been who this guy is. He's always been this kind of prima donna, elitist kind of, he thinks his shit doesn't stink kind of guy. From draft day, we saw the interview with him where he's like, oh, yeah, I'm the best player in the draft. All this kind of stuff. So on that sense, I think Torts setting the tone early is a really good idea. I think that is a good way to keep that personality in check, because those guys are going to butt heads if he doesn't set the tone early. That being said, to have this so public and so crazy, especially with Laine looking to sign a contract and Torts on the last year of his deal, there's layers to this story that just kind of ramp up the excitement level just that much more. So I was giddy looking at this kind of stuff, Nick. Like, this is just more NHL news for us to digest. I don't think it's going to be the last time that we see this guy benched. This guy's a chronic non-back checker. If you thought that Dubois no effort shift was bad, like, Laine is like known for that kind of stuff. So there's going to be issues, man. And I don't know if it's going to be as public as benching, but like, this is going to be a story that we're going to talk about all year long. And yeah, just really interesting stuff. Now Dubois has played 2 games now, and it looks like they're easing him in really slow. Like, he started on the third line the other night, that 10 o'clock game, and he played just fine. He's not on the top power play right now. They just want him to get acclimatized, and then once he's ready, they're going to like really plug him into the second line, get things going. But the tale of 2 tapes. It's I like, Dubois will dissolve from all existence in a good way. Like, he's just going to fit right in, and no one's going to talk about him. And Laine will have this microscope. So it's fun. It's interesting, and I'm glad shit's got news going in the NHL.
Yeah, it's and on the Dubois perspective, I was interested watching that first game, how they staggered their lines. They instead of loading up, they had Scheifele on one line Wheeler on another line, and Connor on another line, instead of all together.
Yeah.
And they had Dubois with Connor. So I'm not sure what they did today. I'm not sure if they stuck with that. But yeah, shocking. I mean, I'm pretty surprised. 5 goals by Winnipeg against the lowly Sens and 0 points for Dubois.
Wow.
17 minutes though, so it's not like they're not playing him. So, very interesting. Something to keep an eye on there. Yeah, something to keep an eye on both situations. I'm more excited for the Line A situation because it's more drama.
Mm-hmm.
There's more drama there boiling over. But as far as like what I care about as a fan, I mean, I want to see how Winnipeg inserts there because to me that's like the first round matchup. That Winnipeg Leafs. I really think we're going to see that in the first round.
Wow.
I think our conversation last episode really foreshadowed that, and I think we're destined for that. And then as far as Line A, there were other reports like saying Torts. There's reports Torts wants out.
Right, I heard.
So
that
maybe this is all just him saying fuck it. Like I don't have much of a leash here anyways. Like I want out anyways. So I'm going my way. Like this is all my way. I hold all the cards here. Whoever wants to sit can sit. And I loved like even after the benching, like Cam Atkinson came out and he was like, well, that's just what you do if you want to play for Torts. I've played for him for years. And if you're not checking, if you're not playing hard, that's what's going to happen. And
wow.
O-Dog O'Neill came right out and he was like, he totally bashed this guy. And he was like, this guy's like a mini Torts. You may as well give him like a mustache and a goatee and call him mini Torts. And,
no way.
Yeah. And he's like, what a load of horse shit. Like O-Dog couldn't stand hearing that.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
He said it reminded him of the guys who they don't say shit all season. And then when your team's down 5-0, the guy finally scores a goal to make it 5-1. And then he comes over onto the bench and starts yapping, come on, boys, we got to get back in this. Come on.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then it's here's this guy who hasn't say shit all year. And now he thinks he's the leader because he scored a meaningless goal. So,
wow.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. And as far as drama, it's hands down the team to be watching right now. I'd say, without a doubt.
I agree. And just not a good time to have one of their goalies. Not a good time because they're always getting lit up now. But I don't know. I don't buy that. I don't buy that story where he's kind of inching his way out. I think he's programmed to win, and I think he's just doing that at a kind of a balls to the wall mentality. Just like anything we can do right. Because let's be honest, that roster is not super built to play his style of hockey. Like when you look at the Texiers, the Max Domis, the Line A's, these guys aren't defensive guys, It's hard to imagine those guys committing to his system. So it'll be interesting to see how he reels it in and whether they can make the playoffs. It's not a guaranteed. It's not a given.
And I read something today. It was like Columbus right now has like the lowest expected goals per game. Like just analytically speaking, if you were to set up a line, if you wanted to spot start against a team, and statistically speaking, who's projected to get the least goals in a game, it's Columbus. Like they literally on paper they should be generating like 1.5 goals a game.
Ooh,
I kind of believe it. Like when Jack Roslovic is your hero and he has to be the hero, it's saying a lot. And so before we move on to the final topic, what did you make of that goal? Is that the best goal of the year so far? Is that cements its role at the top?
You know what? I would put it behind that McDavid rush goal, and kind of on par with that recent Matthews goal, if you remember. That one.
Oh, yeah, on Holtby.
Exactly.
Where he snapped it top corner.
Yeah, but the thing about the Roslovic goal is it almost happened in slow motion. Like you could almost be like, wow, this guy's like pulling crazy moves. And I don't know how no one's picking this up, but this guy's just getting through it. But then you look at the McDavid and Matthews, it's like full speed, blink of an eye, unbelievable. Like I'm not surprised the defense didn't get that, you know? So yeah, it was amazing to see. And this guy, I didn't even know he was from Columbus before all this went down. I thought he was just some guy. So yeah, he's happy where he is. It'll be interesting. Will he develop into that solid number 2 center? It looks like he will. And that'll be another great piece for Columbus in that case.
Okay, so we move on to, I say final topic. What I really mean is final city I want to check in on. And that's the city of New York, where we have two things to address. I will ask you, do you want to go with Tony DeAngelo first, or do you want to go with Lafreniere?
Let's do Tony.
Okay,
Big Tony.
So why don't you explain what exactly happened in New York that night while I quickly scram for a minute and come right back.
Okay. So I'm going to get, and of course, there's so many varying reports on what exactly happened. I'm going to give you the most updated, the most recent, and the most fact-checked report. So obviously, Tony DeAngelo's got a lot of marks on his belt for doing kind of not so great things. This guy, by all reports, is a bit of a dickhead. So the straw that broke the camel's back, we're going back about a week and a half here, is that they lost in overtime to the Pittsburgh Penguins, a little bit of a softie from Crosby on Alexander Georgiev. Now, when they're going out back to the dressing room, from all accounts, Tony DeAngelo said something a little bit mockingly to Georgiev about the goal, and Georgiev turns around and clocks him in the face. And a brawl ensues, and then they're just going at it, and then leaders of the team, with varying reports on who stepped in, they came in to break up the fight. Tony DeAngelo had played his last game in New York. So that's kind of where we're at now. They put him on waivers. I think he's got about a $4 and change million cap hit. I think they were hoping for someone to just pick him up and get this problem off of their hands, but no one did. So now he is on the taxi squad, I believe. He's not allowed to come anywhere near the team, and they are shopping trade offers for the player. So that's kind of the update of where we're at right now.
Right. So,
oh, by the way,
yeah,
I think what you did was a scumbag move, picking him up in fantasy. Just an ill-fated.
So Mr. Character, who's all about character and keeping Lafreniere for the sanctity of the room, has now picked up the worst guy in the room. Is that your argument?
Yeah, exactly.
I knew this
picked up literally one of the worst character guys in the history of the game, perhaps. This guy got suspended from the OHL for literally bullying a teammate. He got suspended. It's crazy, man.
It definitely contradicts my philosophy of how I build a team, and the fan base has been giving me some shit for it. I've been hearing from them about it.
The fan base, the fans.
But hey, here's the thing. I read that morning. I read the Dober he wrote this Monday in the Ramblings about DeAngelo, and he sold me on him. He said this is one of. I didn't buy this argument, but the way he was speaking of this guy, he was like, "There's only 6 defensemen in the league right now who could conceivably put up 70 points in an 82 game season," and he had DeAngelo in that tier.
Oh my God. I don't buy that at all.
Yeah, he had 56 last year in a shortened season. And he's still very young. That's pretty impressive for a guy who doesn't have a big track record. I got to give him that.
Sure.
And so I was just like, hey, I have an NA spot. May as well use it on somebody. I know you got Zagros right now. And I was like, may as well use it on somebody. I read this glowing report card of him today, so fuck it, and I picked him up and stashed him away. But what I'm here, and then I heard there was interest, but now over the last few days, it sounds like there's been a lot less interest because teams have been telling themselves, if I make this move, if I do what Nick did, it might cost me my job.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to make of it. This might just be non-consequential. This might not mean anything. But I still think he'll find his place somewhere. I think the agent of his is one of the best in the league, apparently. And I just feel like that guy will find some kind of role for him. So that's what I'm banking on, and we'll see what happens. But as far as the incident, yeah, I mean, I don't really want to hash this out too much. Like, it is what it is. It's not surprising considering what this guy did earlier in his career, like in the OHL and in Arizona. Tampa, a prestigious organization when it comes to amateur scouting, just got rid of him right away. I mean, that must have been a sign. So, like, there's not much else to say here. I think the more interesting thing isn't what's happened, it's what's the future going to bring, and time will tell. So I think we just got to close the book right now. It is what it is. This legacy, this dark legacy of his continues, and the second a team picks him up, if they pick him up, they immediately join the pantheon of high drama, high interest teams like Columbus right now is to the storyline that comes.
Yeah. To me, I think he's KHL bound. Like, I think he's done in this league. Okay. Like, I think the way the world is now with the PR and all this, and you just saw Arizona blow that second rounder on that Mitchell Miller kid. Mm-hmm. Terrible PR. Like, I know he's a good player, but you're asking just for a can of worms to be open that you don't really want. So I see this guy disappearing to the KHL, putting up good numbers, and if he comes back, he's going to be like 28. It's not going to be anytime soon.
Yeah.
That's where I see things going.
And I would probably say, like, that's not even that outlandish. Like, you're probably in the majority saying that. So it'll be interesting. And then, of course, what's become a tradition here on the show, the second annual edition of the Laugh Track, as we talk about what's happening to little Lafreniere. So just to update everyone, he is still on my team at 42% owned. So he has plummeted from 86 to now 42 in 1 month. And he has 1 goal in 12 games. Funny enough, the same number of goals as Mika Zibanejad, which I find very funny. Like, those two guys,
that's crazy.
They have the same number of goals, and they're both on my team. So, showing the loyalty I have in the Rangers to climb out of this bottomless pit. So yeah, I mean, I all I would update the fans, for those who have not been tuning in, is what seems to be happening in late Rangers land is Quinn has finally started to create fixed lines, which is great. It's no longer a hodgepodge. It's no longer throwing paint at the wall. But the unfortunate thing for little Lafreniere is he is now buried on the third line. He is stuck there. He is stuck playing 14-30 a night. And he has seemed, based on my eyes, to have embraced a hard-hitting, third-line, hustle, strong on the forecheck kind of game, and not the creative wizard, gonna make these outlandish plays kind of philosophy, shooting the puck. He's not shooting. He's playing very short shifts, very conservative. He's always the first guy in his line getting off the ice first. And that would be my report. He of course scored the 1 goal the night after we had our last episode, so that was a bad look on us, shitting on him, and then he stuffed it in our faces. But since then, the whole rhetoric was, oh, well, goal scorers, when they get hot, they get hot. When they finally get one, they just build. And that has not been the case here so far. So that's what I've been seeing, and I've watched every game but I think 1. So what do you think? I'd say last game was probably his best in a while. Again, the physicality was there, and he made those 2 gorgeous plays. And my theory now is, if Panarin is injured, I think you will see more of the top 6 Lafreniere as opposed to the bottom 6 Lafreniere. But time will tell. And for what it's worth, I do think Panarin will play tomorrow. I read a report. I read a report last year where he had similar issues, where he was kind of like laboring a bit. But instead of missing games, he's just started missing practice. And he just, that's what he did, and he was able to keep trekking along. And historically, this guy doesn't miss a lot of games. So that would be my take. And so what do you think on all that?
It would be a real boost if he did miss some time, Panarin. I think that's maybe one of the big dominoes to fall. Get a spot on that top power play, mix in some phantom points there. Well, you know what? At least he seems to be enjoying himself, right? Like whenever you see him on the bench, he's always goofing off. Doesn't look like he's feeling the pressure when you look at him, but you can tell he really is when he's playing. Oh boy, Besser just gets one. So his ice time is down, like you said, from the early on. He's no longer being tried so much in that top six. One thing I will say. Now, I voiced some disappointment, extremely disappointed on the group chat the other day, and I'm going to stop.
If I may interrupt,
yes,
you did make again as one of your two tweets, searching for some concrete evidence that Lafreniere will be a star in the NHL based on his play this season. Searching but not finding somebody. Please help me out here. So pretty grim, depressing quotes there. That is definitely a depressed man after drinking down some puppers, a few too many puppers.
You know what that is, Nick? It's a cry for help. Because after every single game, I'm disappointed, and I turn to online. I turn to the people. I turn to the scouts who are hopefully, they're going to be there to tell me it's all going to be okay. And I never find anything. I'm always looking and it's all negative. It's all negative. I'm putting this out to say, hey guys, this is what I'm seeing. I need somebody to tell me I'm wrong here. Please tell me I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. Because what disappointed me the most is one might say that he looks like a boy amongst men out there. He doesn't win a lot of these puck battles. Sure, he's mixing in some hits, but it's not like he's winning a lot of puck battles, and it's not like he's skating with the best of them out there. So I'm going to say this to you, and you tell me if I'm wrong. Whatever he did in this long-ass off-season was either wrong or simply not enough. And then I'm going to ask you this next. Didn't he have enough time to physically become ready for this? And is COVID a real excuse for him not being physically ready? No, I get you didn't have too many sheets of ice. But couldn't you have bulked up a little bit? Couldn't you have become more of just physically ready? You had 9 months. 9 months. That's more than any rookie ever has ever. Why do you look so out of place compared to what your billing was? And you had all kinds of scouts saying this is the most ready out of the whole draft class. This guy's going to be ready to step in, put up 60 points. It's easy. Why is everyone wrong? This is my question. Did he do the wrong thing in the offseason? Who is supporting him in the offseason? Who does he hang out with? Why isn't he going to Sidney Crosby's Camp of Magic over in Nova Scotia? Do changes need to be made here? What is this camp doing? I want to know more. I'm trying to dig. I'm not finding any answers, and I just need some help. I really need some help because there's the occasional flash of that brilliant playmaking, like the pass to Ryan Strome the other day. But it's not enough. It doesn't happen frequent enough. And for whatever reason, probably a mix of bad luck or whatever, they're not getting finished. Those chances are not getting finished. It's hard. It's very frustrating.
I think the main concern, if I had to boil it down to one thing, one cause and effect here, it's the lack of reps, the lack of in-game simulated reps. You can bench as much as you want off the ice. You can, do CrossFit as much as you want off the ice. But in-game simulated real NHL reps that you would usually get in a long training camp, preseason games, teams usually have 7 to 8 preseason games. He missed out on all of that. And as a result, the number one thing I'm seeing in his game that that usually those things rectify is a lack of confidence. It's getting off the ice as soon as you think you have to. It's not making those brilliant passes enough, not holding on to the puck enough, not looking comfortable enough on the ice. All of those things are rectified by just playing games, getting reps. And in this is an unprecedented year where players did not have that. And I think the fact these last 6 games have been better than his first 6 speaks to that theory that I just posed. So I think it's just he's a guy who was plunged into an unprecedented setting that usually is not the case for these rookies. And I would suspect that you just wipe those first 6 games off the slate, just look at the last 6 for what they are, and you can see an improvement. And I do think you will continue to see an improvement. And those are the things that are pissing me off the most. It's the lack of confidence. It's the, I need to get off right away, or Coach Quinn's going to shoot me. Or I can't hold on to the puck longer than 2 seconds. I gotta immediately make a pass. He's making brilliant passes and they're on the tape every time, but he's not doing anything with the puck. He gets the puck and immediately it's off to somebody else. He's not shooting and he's not skating with it. And his skating has improved. Yeah. Like you were shitting on his skating, but when he's just back checking, like he's back checking, and when he's just forechecking. He looks faster. I wouldn't say he looks faster with the puck because we're not seeing enough of him skate with the puck. But away from the puck, I do think he's become a better skater. I can see it. So that would be the only thing I can add. It's that point. It's the lack of confidence from the whole COVID, and you hope time will rectify it.
Does what you've seen so far at all change your long-term projection of the player?
I haven't wavered from my comments last week. Like I still think at the end of this year he will produce at like point like 7 points per game. At the end of this year, I do. And I just think it's a matter of reps. The long-term trajectory, I never really had one, to be honest. Like I never said like he was going to be Eichel or he was going to be in Matthews' tier. I was always asking you and asking for your prognostication. So I never really had a long-term trajectory. But as far as this year, I would just say I suspect we're going to see the same kind of blank numbers here for a little bit. And then maybe by the 20-game mark, you see some steady improvement. You know, by the trade deadline, maybe he's averaging half a point per game. And then maybe at the end of the season, he's when they're playing spoiler, because it doesn't look like the Rangers are going to be in it for a long time here. When they're playing with when they're playing with
house money.
That's when I think he'll take control and people will sleep on him and he will break out. So that's my prediction for just this year.
Last question for you. When's this guy going to be converted to a center? Like, I saw him take the draw the other day in the game.
Yeah, he's winning draws. Clean,
and he's got a 60% face-off on the year. And then you think about it, him being a little bit of a slower, more cerebral player, like, aren't those guys usually centermen? Like when you think of a winger, you want the guy to be crashing down the boards like a Josh Anderson. That's what I think of it. Prototypical. This guy's a winger, can't be a center. The guy, he doesn't think too much. He's going to crash down the boards. He's going to do his thing. But to me, like, it's always been like, why hasn't he been tried at center since we've been following him for the last 3 years? It's very odd, and I think they got such a need there. Like, give it a shot. Maybe not this year, but. He looks good there. I mean,
it's a tough ask. It's a tough ask for a first year.
Sure.
Like we're here talking about just as acclimatization to the league and just getting reps in general. I think it's a long way to say, okay, now you're ready for center. But I think in the off season, maybe that's something they can explore. I do agree though that it's something that it leaves you thinking maybe this can be something, especially for a team that doesn't have much center depth. And I think in the offseason, that's something they can explore. But I don't want them mentioning that to him right now. Like, that's way too much for his mind. He's trying to digest his brain's trying to digest too much right now as it is, and we can see that.
Mhm.
And I think trusting a rookie with that responsibility would just be too much right now. So I like the thought. I think there's potential, but let's revisit in the summer, maybe. You know.
Do you know what Quinton Byfield has been doing in the AHL?
I know he got injured.
Did he really?
And yeah, I know he got injured, and it sidelined him to this point. So that's probably why when you were doing your AHL prospect research, he did not pop up.
Mm-hmm.
Because I heard like I sent you his goal he scored, like his first game preseason he scored, and then I think he got hurt like his second game, and then it's been day to day since. So he's hurt. Turcotte's still hurt. So a lot of those Kings, the top guys, hurt. But then other guys, Kaliev scored his first goal, kind of a garbage goal, but he did score. And Velarde is fitting in like a glove as he did last year. So that's your Kings report. Those two guys, those are the top 4 prospects. So 2 of those guys are doing fine. The other 2, 1 and 2 respectively in Wheeler's rankings, still don't know. And that's the thing that worries me about Turcotte. Like, this guy's always getting injured. Like heroic gold medal game
as well.
Heroic gold medal game against the Canada, and like what a game. And then like it's like he wins, and then he's like, all right, I'm putting my feet up for a month. Like like again, I don't know about the character of this player, and I hope he's taking care of his body. So only time will tell.
I doubt it. Hey, I have Byfield 1 assist in 3 AHL games.
1 assist.
That's the latest.
Does that
report,
count the preseason games?
I don't believe so.
And when was that last game? Like, does it say when any of that happened?
No, I could dig a little more, but
interesting. Yeah, the Ontario Reign, which is not our Ontario, by the way. Just so you know.
What? Come on.
Like, maybe you read that and you assume, oh, he's playing in Ontario. Like, I should go catch a Byfield game. Yeah, that is a little municipality that's like I believe just south of LA. So there's some geography news for everybody.
Honestly, Nick, I think he might be back.
I wouldn't surprise me.
All I see right now is 3 games, 1 assist, -5. That's all I have.
Yeah, I'm looking at him right now, and
three games is all they've played all year too. So he's played all their regular season games.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay, so I guess he's back, but yeah, I haven't read anything notable. I follow some writers on The Athletic, but they haven't mentioned anything. Okay, so if that's all the hockey news out of the way, unless you have one more thing to add, we are close to 11:30 here, so I'm going to devote the last 5 minutes of this show, if I may, to my spoiler-free review of the most anticipated game of the past decade, Cyberpunk 2077. Wow, what a cool title.
I don't want any biased bullshit. Nick's got a big fanboy thing going on. I don't want any of that. Give me a real, honest review.
Yeah, I'll just give you my snapshot, and then if you have any Q&A, you can send them my way. But I will make this snapshot short and sweet.
Okay.
Okay. Cyberpunk 2077, and I won't break this down. Like, you like to do this methodically. You like to go characters, story. Like, I don't like that. I'm just going to give you, like, Nick's raw thoughts. You're too analytical with this stuff.
Sure.
Okay. Nick's raw thoughts. Cyberpunk 2077 is not the greatest shit to hit this planet. It's far from it.
Okay.
That said, Cyberpunk 2077 is a great RPG. So that is succinctly put. It is not a generational game. It is not in the pantheon of Red Dead Redemption 2. The Witcher 3. The Last of Us. It is not in that pantheon. It is a great RPG. It is better than probably my favorite Fallout game. I'm trying to think of other RPGs like that come to mind recently. Like it's better than your it's better than your Bethesda RPG. Skyrim, I mean, it's hard to compare because it's literally a decade ago. 2021 against 2011. I'm saying in this generation, it is a great RPG. So I will say this: it does not have the story, the narrative that you want. And I will compare it to The Witcher because it's CDPR. It does not have the story that Witcher had. When I rolled the credits on Cyberpunk last night, I did not have the same euphoria I had when I beat The Witcher and I got the best ending with Geralt and Ciri having drinks at the bar at the end of the game. I did not have that same jump in my step. I felt a little empty. Like and for the record, there's 5 endings in this game. I got the best one. Okay, so you're hearing this verdict from someone who allegedly should be the most positive. I have not seen the other endings. I'm going to get there. I've only heard about them. But it does not leave you with the same euphoria. That said, where the game really shines is its side quests. It still has that Witcher side quest feel. Those monster contracts you do with the little tales that inspired you and got you really excited, they are there. And the characters in this game are just as good, if not better. And so the side stuff is the real charm of this game and something that I would encourage everyone to play. When you pick up this game, do not just rush through it. You can beat the main story in like 20 hours. I put 65 hours into this game. And the side stuff is what will keep you going and in typical CDPR fashion excite you. The game, I'd say, is more fun to play than The Witcher. The Witcher is very hack and slash, kind of buggy, spinning with my sword, casting spells. It was never great from a gameplay perspective. This game has better gameplay. The guns are fun to use. They're like futuristic. It sucks at first. The gunplay is not very good, but I would tell everyone stick with it. You unlock more guns, the snipers. Moving forward, it really opens up. It's a lot of fun from a gameplay perspective. I would encourage everyone to stay away from the hacking setup. That the hacking does not work very well. I didn't really like it for a futuristic game. It's not one of its strengths, which is a big negative for me. It should be a strength, but it's a negative. I would encourage everyone when you pick up this game, max your skill tree in the strength and the shooting and play it like a shooter, and don't play it like a stealth hacking game. Like taking out your katana, like your sword, and just ripping up people is some of the most gratifying moments. It's fantastic. Or the blades, we've all seen the trailers, the mantis blades that come out of their wrists. They're awesome. But do not play this like a stealth hacking game. It will disappoint you. Play it as a shooter, hacker slasher. And in that respect, it's great. And then technically, I've been playing on a PS5. And this is probably the most important thing. I mean, it ran okay for me for like 40 hours of the experience. They then added some patches. It stopped crashing, which was great. Basically, I was in a rut where every play session, every 3-hour chunk, it would crash for sure once, maybe twice every sesh, which was very demoralizing when you're in an intense sequence and it just boots you out. But they patched it as of like 2 weeks ago. It doesn't crash anymore. And the graphics even look more polished. It looks really good. And I'm not even playing on a 4K TV. So visually it looks great. It looks like a 2020 game. But again, I can't, for all the positives I just mentioned, I cannot recommend this game for a PS4 user. And that's what kills me. For the game in itself, I can recommend. I still maintain it is a great RPG. But I cannot tell you or Dante to play this on your base PS4. It will ruin the experience. You've already waited this long. Like, we are far out of the window of when everyone got their hands on this. Just wait till they've patched this. I know another one's coming out this month. The next gen version, they're coming out with a whole new version for the next gen, comes out in 4 months. So I'm thinking of doing a second playthrough. I loved this.
What?
I would play this a second playthrough because
wow.
In saying it's a great RPG, that should speak volumes enough. That in itself speaks to the fact you can feel an incentive to play this a different way, you know? And that's in so many different ways. Like the ending, what you do will really affect that. The relationships you build with certain characters, the love relationships, right? The number one person I want to romance, I couldn't romance because I'm playing as a male.
Right.
So next game, I got to play as a female just to romance this character. So that's just an example. So, or your lifestyle, right? You can pick Corpo, Street Kid, or Nomad, and you're gonna love the Nomads. You are a nomad through and through. You'll play this game and say, "I am a nomad." They are literally like beers around the campfire. Those are the Nomads, and what you do there affects kind of your options. So I love that aspect, and I'd say if there's the number one thing about this game, it's the world. I have never played a sci-fi game before like that I can think of, and this checks all the boxes I want out of sci-fi. And again, that's subjective. Lots of people don't like sci-fi. I know you like your medieval, you like your Skyrim, your Lord of the Rings, you love that shit. You eat that shit up.
Yeah. But
if you're looking for Blade Runner, Ghost in the Shell inspired stuff, this will check those boxes. Like my one friend Mark here in law school, he's a huge sci-fi nerd, and this checked all the boxes he wanted, and that was his glowing review. And so I wouldn't say the world is as immersive as Red Dead or as interactable as Red Dead. Like that's still groundbreaking immersion what they did with that game. But it's a different kind of setting. It's futuristic. The cars are fun to drive, especially the ones you get later that are like Uber cars. Like a 2077 version of a Porsche. Like it's really fun driving that around. And it's fantastic. So the world, huge thumbs up for that. The characters, side missions, those would probably be like if those three things speak to you, like I want to play in a sci-fi world with some great characters and some fantastic storylines, play this game. And you will like it. And Johnny Silverhand, Keanu Reeves, does not disappoint. He is fantastic through and through. I know a lot of people were hating, like, how could this guy be a voice actor all of a sudden? He kills it. His character is impeccable. Impeccably written, really? Impeccably performed. Every minute of this guy you want to interact with. Like, you do not want to miss a single Johnny moment in this game. And for the record, he is not a side character. This guy is the most important character in the game other than you. So he will be there your whole journey, and he's fantastic. So that's everything. I think I addressed everything I want to there, and like I said, I'd recommend it for everyone on a PC or a next-gen console. And if you're on a last-gen console, which I know is the majority here, just wait. You've waited this long, just wait. I'll lend it to your Dante or whoever down the road when you're ready, and play it then. But I do not miss this game. Do not miss this game, but do not expect Red Dead or The Witcher. I still think Witcher is their coup de grace, their masterpiece, and I still maintain that. But it's different, and I'm kind of glad they did this.
Very good, very good. Good.
Any
word.
questions that I did not address?
Well, I'm just glad you gave like a very grounded review. You know, like you didn't go too far in any one direction. Like it sounds like you're giving me the honest truth.
That's all honesty.
Well, let me ask you this: did you ever find yourself getting a kick out of just like you start the game up, got the control in your hands, you simply just dick around, explore, and just enjoy the world? Don't even touch a mission. Have you found yourself doing that?
No. I don't. It doesn't have that that like I said, that Red Dead feel where you could hop in, talk to a stranger, and be entertained, be stimulated in some kind of way.
Yeah.
But when you do search out for those side missions, the way those interact with the world and expose you to certain things in the world, then it works. But if you're not in those missions, if you're not in those side quests, it's very difficult just to see the world and be like, oh, it's so interactable. There is something really cool, you know? But yeah, but I still think like it's a better world than The Witcher's world. Like the Witcher is 3 separate maps spread, like 3 separate maps that all kind of feel empty. This is dense. It's one map that's dense, no loading screens. You could drive from one end to the next. And I kind of like that setup. It's a little more Red Dead-y as opposed to the more arcadey Witcher where you're teleporting from Skellige to like the first world, you know? Like, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay, and yeah, go ahead.
One more thing. You know how there's like various settlements in most of these RPG games? Are in Cyberpunk, is it just mainly one city and then an outland, or is it just kind of multiple settlements?
Great question. So there are 6 different kind of rival gangs in this city, and each rival gang controls a neighborhood. And so you basically have like 6 different neighborhoods in this game. And they're all different in their own way, clearly. So like you have kind of a little Tokyo, little China neighborhood. You have a more Hispanic on the beaches of California neighborhood. Of course, this game takes place in LA in the future. So like Santa Monica. Think GTA 5, but it's now futuristic. You have a northern neighborhood, like the nomads who are outside of the city, the guys like you that I think you will like. You have the city corporate people. That like they are there. And depending on your lifestyle, depending on your path, if you're a street kid, a nomad, or a corpo, how they interact with you will be different everywhere you go. But yeah, you'll notice a clear difference. Like I have a neighborhood that's my favorite. One I don't like so much. So it all means something. It's not just titles placed there. It all means something. And just like I'd be remiss if again, just the side quests. Like there's side quests in this game that like they take like 2 hours to complete, and you are just enthralled the whole time. Like there was one in particular where my mind was like blown. It's probably like my favorite quest in an RPG I've ever played. And it was like it just so cool. The way they told the story was so cool. And I think that in itself like warrants a playthrough. It's really unprecedented. So these are like, as much as you want to shit on the technical side and how much they fucked it up and their stock plummeted, you still have these writers. These are still the guys who wrote The Witcher, you know? And I think that in itself warrants your attention. This developers only come out with like 2 games in the past like 10 years. So give them a fair shake and try this game when you're ready for it. And that would be my advice.
Did you have any like emotional moments, or was it more the good moments were just like, oh, that's cool?
No, so many emotional moments. Like if I didn't want to spoil this game for you, like I would easily have screenshotted moments and sent them to you. But I don't want to spoil moments. Like and that's like story related, involving like friendships, involving romances. Lots of times we're pulling at my heartstrings. Like I said, like that moment, I always think of that moment in The Witcher where he's saying goodbye to Triss Merigold and she goes away and the guy goes, well, Witcher, I guess she left you this time. And then she shows up and it's all heroic and you're all excited and you have all this jubilation again. You will have those moments in this game. And the way it's first person, so the way they tell it is very different and it's more immersive. I think that part worked. So No, you will have those moments. To answer your question, you will have those emotions flowing in certain moments for sure. Because I just think the writing's so good that you'll immediately become invested with certain characters and want to see their stories through.
Right. Do you know what is on the horizon for CDPR? What is next? Or is that just unknown?
They have a patch coming out this month for so they had 2 patches for the last gen for all the consoles that are supposedly in their press release was supposed to fix the game for you guys, the old console people. Patch 1 in January didn't really do the trick, apparently. It helped like the newer gen people, but it didn't really affect you guys too much. So stay tuned at the end of this month to see what that next one does, because that will decide if their promise came through. If it is that dramatic, then it goes to show you, oh, they're devs of their word. You know, they've redeemed their rep a tiny bit. So watch out for that. And then the next gen update will be sometime in the summer, 4 months from now, I think. And then DLC later this year. So it sounds like what they did with The Witcher with those the big world DLCs, like the
Blood and Wine,
those fantastic RPG or DLCs. Those are going to be, at least the first ones are going to be free now because of all this bullshit. So yeah, and their guy, like their head CEO guy, he like apologized publicly like 3 weeks ago about what happened. I bought their stock immediately as that happened, and I made $2,000 on CDPR stock.
No way! Wow.
So
what did they go up by?
Well, it's Polish dollars, so it's hard to.
Oh.
It's hard. I can't tell you like how much US dollars they went up.
Yeah.
But they went from like 240 PLN, which is like Polish dollars, to like 300 PLN in like 3 days. It was the same week as that GME stuff. Were you following that when it was that same week? Yeah. So they were one of those companies that really surged. And I sold, but I sold way too early. If I held on for 2 more days, I would have doubled it. Would have had like 5.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
so that's my only exposure to the stock market, and I'm staying out because it just makes you feel like a fucking idiot. Like at least sports betting, you feel like you know what you're doing and you know when to read things are going well or not so well. The stock market, it's its own beast. So
yeah,
that's my advice for the boys and girls at home.
Nice. I'm sure they'll listen just perfectly.
Yeah.
Personal finance podcast coming next.
No, thank you. Wrong candidate for that.
Featuring Demos.
Yeah. That guy would fit the bill for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so is that everything?
I think that's all.
So are you going to give this game a try?
Well,
at some point,
like you said, down the road, if I can get through a clean experience. You know what? No, you know what? Maybe I'll give it a try after I get a PS5. Like after that happens, because it will happen. Maybe that's my moment. Yeah. Maybe that's the first game I play.
Maybe it might that might be 6 months from now. That might be a year from now. That might be 2 years from now. But I would respect that. I don't care when you play this game. I would like you to play this game when you can in the proper circumstances. And ask your when you see them, ask your firefighter friend what he's done with this game. Did he play it? Did he drop it?
I think they've got an episode on it actually.
Oh, they do. Okay.
Yeah. So
I will tune into that.
You'll probably be able to hear most of that.
Good. Because I know they liked it at first, but I don't know if they stuck through with it. So, yeah. And then we will get a Kyle spoiler Ghost of Tsushima review next episode.
Next episode.
Next episode. Yeah. Okay. So there you go, fans. One of the biggest games of the year. You will hear his thoughts on it in 2 weeks'
Indeed.
time. So that's your promo for next episode. And until then, we hope you enjoyed yet another week. This solo edition, 2 men of the just the 2 of us for this episode, but a good one nonetheless. So yeah, we look forward to talking to you guys in another couple of weeks. And until next time, Rink Moose is signing off.